Okay. Hi, Robert. How's it
Hello.
going?
All right.
Okay. So Robert, how old are you?
I'm be 53 in a couple like a week or so.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
I was born here in
Uh-huh.
'71, and
Uh-huh.
then I was up here all the time because I was like my grandparents' favorite grandchild. But I grew up in like Camarillo and El Rio and Oxnard and stuff like that. And then I moved up here when I was in 10th grade.
You moved to Ojai when you were in 10th
Yes,
grade.
ma'am.
Where'd you go to school?
El Rio.
Okay, so you went to, but once you moved to Ojai,
Yeah, then I went to Nordhoff.
did you graduate Nordhoff?
No, I
Okay.
graduated from Folsom State Prison. I got my
Okay.
GED from Folsom State Prison.
Okay. So you went to Nordhoff for a little bit.
Yeah, I did about a year there, and then like I pulled myself out of school and put myself in Chaparral.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see.
And then I
Um,
was a foster child, and I went and hit the foster system. So then I went to Oxnard, and then
uh-huh.
ended up at out at the airport.
Okay. Um, can you tell me about how you lost your housing and how you ended up here?
I lost my leg like 8 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and I was living in Tennessee at the time.
Okay.
So I came back home,
I
and
see.
then I had some complications. So like for like a year and a half, I had a 4-inch hole open up in my stump, and the whole inside of my leg drained out.
Oh my
So
God.
it took me, and I got MRSA,
Uh-huh.
so it took me about 19 months to take care of all that.
Okay.
And then as soon as I finished all that, my mom threw me out on the street. So I went down and stayed in Ventura. I
Hmm.
didn't really know what to do or anything, you know what I mean? So I went down and I was staying in the river bottoms and stuff down there.
You were staying in the river
Yeah,
bottom in the
I've been homeless for like 6.5 years.
were you staying in the Ojai River
No,
bottom
in the
in
avenue,
Ventura on
yeah,
the
in the avenue
avenue?
and in the harbor.
Okay. Okay. So you're moving around a lot.
Right.
And when did you end up?
Yeah, I came up here about 10 months ago. I just came up here for the day,
Okay.
just to get away from up there, you know what I mean, break up the monotony of things.
Yeah.
And so I came up here to spend the day, and when I was going home in the nighttime, I ran into a friend of mine on a bike trail,
Uh-huh.
and so he brought me back up here, and
I
then they
see.
threw me a tent over there in a bed, so I was like, okay, well, I'll stay here for a while then. So I
Okay.
kind of took it as a hint to stick, they wanted me to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about your experience living here at City Hall for the last 10 months.
Honestly?
Uh-huh. Yeah, please, please.
Well, I think that's a bunch of waste of money.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I mean, because like what? I mean, I don't see no purpose. I mean, I don't know. They probably spent like $500,000 on something like that, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and as soon as they start getting everybody into housing or something, what are they gonna do with all that? They take it
Well,
down, and it's gonna be go
supposedly
somewhere or something. You
they're
know what I
going to
mean?
keep these tents.
Okay,
You
but
know.
I don't know. I kind of, my interpretation of how I perceive things and how I kind of just seen and felt things, right? Because I'm a very spiritual person, so I
Yeah.
feel energy. You know, we
Yeah.
all have energy, so
Yeah.
feel the energy. And you know, this was COVID. COVID, it caused a lot of problems. So
Mm-hmm.
I know it probably hurt a lot of businesses in the city. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very popular person. My Facebook page, and people watch me lose my leg and then come up out of that and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure that because I a lot of people are coming to Ventura and getting busy, seeing me and things like that. You know, I mean, a guy rides a bike with one leg, so I mean, it's something people want to see, right? So I kind of figured that they brought me up here to help the community, the businesses of the community,
Mm-hmm.
and generate money and revenue for them because it was after COVID and all that.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I don't know. It's go. It's give it a go. I don't really know I don't know what their plan is, or because
Yeah.
you have probably like a bunch of groups trying to do. You know what I mean? You probably have like 5 or 6 or several groups trying to do something,
Mm-hmm.
and so without them all really working with one another, they're all
Mm-hmm.
trying to they all probably have their own little agenda. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what a lot of what I see what's going on is you got like 3 or 4 different groups trying to get grants or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like I said, I study the law, so this is even illegal for us to be living like this
Hmm.
because we have a right to fundamental housing just
Yeah.
like everybody else does.
Yeah.
And that includes having running water or anything like that
Mhm.
and bathrooms and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
And I've already told the city hall, I've put it down on paper and told the city hall that too.
Yeah. So Robert, something really unique about you is that you ride your bicycle with one leg. How do you do that? How did you learn how to do that?
I used to be in a wheelchair, and I went everywhere in my wheelchair backwards, like all over Ventura, the promenade and everything.
Uh-huh.
And then I went to jail, and they took my wheelchair, and it was locked up in a porter storage for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like stuck at Mission Park. And,
Yeah.
and, I needed to be able to get up and go somewhere to eat, or we had Catholic Charities. So my friend's like, here's a bike. And I'm like, well, okay, I can just sit on it and push myself around, right?
Okay.
And so that was just it. From there, I just, after like a day or two, I just kind of like pedaled on my own.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it took me maybe like 2 or 3 months before I actually put a strap on my pedal so I could, because it's my only foot, so I didn't really want to lock it in.
Totally.
I was kind of afraid.
Yeah.
So it took me a while before I did that, and then I've just been on. I use that instead of using any wheelchair or anything like that.
And Robert, you mentioned you spent some time in jail. Would you be willing to share what you were in jail for?
Oh yeah, I got into an altercation one night at a football game.
Okay.
Over at the Vons, right there. The next parking lot over right there where the banks are, right there. Some guy came
here
out
in Ojai?
Yeah, over in Ojai. Some guy came out of the alleyway and attacked me.
Wow.
And so I heard him, and I went to jail, so I was looking at 8 years.
Wow.
So I ended up a little bit of time, and then, like I said, I'm not from up here, so I grew up in like El Rio, and growing up there, like, even there was a house like right here there was a school right here by my house, but my parents had me going to school all the way across town on the other side of town. So I had to go, when I would go through the alleyway, all the kids were coming this way to go to school. And, this is back in the days where gang violence was starting and things like that. So a lot of kids, I had to fight to go to and from school every day.
Yeah.
So, as I said, then later on moving up here, if I didn't put up with no shit down, I'm sorry, excuse my language, I tried to cut.
That's
okay. If I didn't put up with nothing down there, then
Yeah.
I wasn't going to come up and put up with nothing up here.
Yeah.
So, I just have a bad attitude. Not really a bad attitude. I'm really, straightforward, and I don't have a filter on my mouth, so I'm really be blunt about it, and a lot of people don't like to be told like that. It's kind of truth hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you a few more questions.
Sure,
I have
man.
3 more questions,
Sure.
if that's okay. Let's see. Do you still have family in Ojai? You said your grandparents lived here, right?
Yeah, my grandparents lived here.
Yeah.
When my grandpa died, my grandma died a few years ago. Maybe like around, I don't know, maybe 2012 or 13, somewhere around there. It's like, my parents lived on Burnham Road, but I don't really, like I said, they threw me out, so I don't really talk to them or anything like that. And I think my mom just died like a few months ago.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah. So does Ojai feel like home to you?
Oh, this is where I was born and raised. This is where I was born. You know what I mean? So it's kind of. You have to be from here to really know and understand a lot of things. Like I've been telling people, we had the ability to communicate telepathically, and I went in town and I showed people these things. You know what I mean? I don't know, because of the way this valley to the east and west that it runs or whatever. That's why they say it's a magical place up here. But that's why I say if you're from up here, you would know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I went in town, there's other elders up here that I could communicate telepathically with. We have that, but we're livestock, right? Because we're human. We're of the human stock, and we're alive, so we'd be just the same as any other livestock, right? So if you see a herd of gazelles running down the road, and they're about to go over the cliff, and they all turn like that, But they didn't say nothing. They just all communicated telepathically.
Mm-hmm.
So before we could speak, we were able to communicate telepathically too, right?
Let me ask you two other questions. So the city is having trouble finding a location for the housing development that they receive grant funding to build for the folks living here. What would you say? Then the reason they're having trouble is because
the way the community, right?
Business owners are saying that they don't want this housing in their neighborhood or near their business. What would you say to
okay,
folks who think that?
Well, I can understand maybe a little bit because where they are choosing is right there on Ojai Ave.
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of like it's right on Ojai Ave, which kind of that's more of something a business would want another business to go in. You know what I mean? You're kind of taking that property away from a potential business or something that can, and you don't really want a housing unit right there on Ojai Ave. Mm-hmm. You probably want it off more. I see like a good place to be right across from the high school. I mean, yeah, that big old field that's just been there across from the high school for years. I mean, all since I was a little kid, that place has been like that. So, I mean, that would be my honest opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand a lot because this is a very how do you have to say, like uppity or high class community,
wealthy community.
Wealthy. So they would look down on the homeless, right? Because but like I had said in my all men and women are created equal. Mm-hmm. So because you have $1 million house doesn't mean that you're better than me or anything like that. You know what I mean? And when you add because that's what the whole diversity and inclusion was supposed to be when they passed these laws, was to be able to say, okay, well, you know what? This black man gets to live right here next to this rich man in this nice neighborhood, right? Because then you don't have any discrimination or anything like that, right? But see, in other places like Ventura and places like that, it's easier to do that kind of thing. But up here, it's harder because there's the money up here runs the city.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
what misconception? That Zionist flag came down. We had a Zionist flag, half Israel, half United States Corporation. And I said, hey, we don't have flags, we have totem poles.
Thank you. So last question. So people, like you said, there are members of the community who look down.
And that's also discrimination.
Yeah, and I'd like to know what would you say to, what misconceptions do you think that people in the community have about people who live here?
Well, one, okay, to put me in the homeless light, right? I was born here.
Yeah.
So what makes me any different than any other person that maybe moved here 10 years ago? So I was born here. I would be native to this indigenous to this area, right?
Yeah.
So how can you come in and tell me I can't live where I was born and raised?
Yeah.
Because you have the money to be able to tell me something like that? That's discrimination.
Yeah.
But not only that, like I said in my thing, for people to slander us and defamation of character is what it is too. You know what I mean? So when you have people doing that, then everybody jumps on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
And without, like you said, well, this gives you the people a chance to be able to see, well, that man's a smart man. Look at some of the things that he said, right? So, and look, like I said, I'm homeless and I'm a smart man. So, with my education, even getting my GED out of prison, right? And just say, oh, well, I could have a college degree with some of my education, but without anybody ever stopping to talk to me or anything like that, but just looking at me and judging me before that's by like judging a book by its cover.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So something like this interview opens that door and gives the opportunity to be able to say, well, wait a minute. Maybe we should talk to them and open the parlay or the conversation up so we can really, because without us working all together, we're really not going to solve anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
honestly.
yeah, thank you so much for that, Robert. Is there anything else that anything I didn't ask that you think, is important to say?
I mean, no, that's about, they need, I mean, it the other thing that I worry about is because we all know how we all know the history with our government
Mm-hmm.
and pork barrel spending and all that stuff like that, right? So the big thing is now for whatever amount of money they get, I would like the people to be aware of where the money actually goes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? People would start being held accountable. Because if I was worried about anything in this town, one thing that I would worry about is my infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like with our city roads, because
Mm-hmm.
you got potholes over here and there. I'm sure you have a nice car. You spend like, well, I'm just
Sorry.
I'm just saying. But if somebody goes to spend $50,000 on a car,
Yep.
and there's potholes all over the road, that car in 5 years, the whole suspension is going to be shot.
Yep.
So you're destroying my people's stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why they study me and research me, because I think different than a lot of other people do. You know what I mean? Because people don't look at it from that point of view.
Yeah.
And you go through town and it's half paved here and half paved there, and it's just basically where they've done the watershed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I mean, that's why I said I'm an intelligent
Yeah.
man. 'Cause I've got no money in my pocket, but I pay attention.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you so much for the
You're
interview,
welcome.
Robert. That was really, really helpful.
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I would get on the blogs and all that stuff like that. But the way I look at it like this is, you know what? Because one, like I never had a vaccination
Mm-hmm.
my whole life. Right. Like someone my age would have the ones where,
Right.
where you have it in your arm or anything like that, right? I don't have that even. Yeah, that's so that's one thing, the medical industry or even like the Gates and things like that, you know what I mean? Bill and Melinda Gates, they don't want me out in the public
Okay.
because it exposes what the bad things that they did, because especially if you do a COVID vaccination. I started studying this back in 2010
Uh-huh.
when they started putting in nanotechnology in the vaccination.
All right. I think we're getting off
Right.
topic, but thank you for sharing.
You know, so those things like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and if you talk to me, I'm very smart and
Yep.
intelligent man. So
Mhm.
those things like that kind of.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing your experience, Robert.
You're
We
welcome.
really appreciate
No
it.
problem.